Okay, so let's talk about something you probably never thought you'd hear in the same sentence: ancient scripture and cutting-edge artificial intelligence. It sounds a little wild, right? But there's this whole new wave of AI tools out there that are specifically designed to help people engage with the Bible. So we're going to dive in and figure out what that actually means.
And that really brings us to a huge kind of mind-bending question, doesn't it? This is really the heart of what we're digging into. So before we get into all the nitty-gritty of the tech and the theology, I just want you to keep this one idea in your head. What happens when we start asking a machine for spiritual insight?
All right, so to make sense of all this, we've got a roadmap. First, we'll look at how AI is even getting into this space. Then, we'll take a tour of the different tools. After that, we'll weigh the good stuff, the potential, against the bad stuff, the dangers. And we'll wrap up by thinking about how to be wise about it all. Okay, let's jump right into part 1, AI meets ancient texts. You know, it seriously sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this isn't future talk. The fusion of AI and scripture, it's happening right now, and it's creating some brand new ways for people to interact with these ancient writings.
So here's the deal. There are actual companies out there marketing these AI tools specifically to Christians, and the promises are big, right? They're saying they can create custom study plans for you, give you theological research whenever you want it, and basically deepen your spiritual life. But that brings up the big question. How on earth do these things actually work?
Which leads us perfectly into our second section, a tour of the tools. Look, if we're going to understand the impact here, we first have to get a handle on the technology itself. And it's important to know that these AI tools, well, they aren't all created equal. They actually fall into a few different categories.
Okay, so the source material we're looking at really breaks it down into 3 main buckets. First up, you've got retrieval-based tools. Think of these like a superpowered, highly specific search engine. Then you've got 2 other types that are built on what you've probably heard of: large language models, or LLMs. You know, the AI that's trained on just massive amounts of text to sound human. And within that LLM category, you have pre-generated tools, which just pull from a library of answers the AI already made. And then there's conversational AI, which is what we think of as a chatbot, creating new answers on the fly.
So this slide really gets to the core difference between the 2 big ones you'll see. On one side, you've got retrieval AI. The best way to think about it is like a brilliant librarian. It can only search through the books it has in its library, a fixed set of data. On the other side, you have conversational AI. This is more like a creative brainstorming partner. It actually generates new text based on what you ask it. And yeah, this is the tech that powers things like ChatGPT that we all know.
All right, so we know what they are. Now let's talk about the why. Why would someone even want to use these tools for something as personal as faith? Well, there's a real belief, a genuine hope, that this technology could actually open up brand new ways to learn and grow spiritually.
The big promise here really boils down to 2 things: breadth and connection. I mean, think about it. An AI can, in an instant, show you a whole new world of ideas or theological traditions you've never even heard of. It can connect a Bible verse to some scholar you'd otherwise never discover. The hope is that it helps you build a much richer, more personal faith by, popping that intellectual bubble we all sometimes live in.
And this is a perfect example of what that looks like. Just imagine for a second that you've only ever read authors from your own specific church tradition. A well-built AI could be like a bridge. It could introduce a Protestant to the incredibly deep history of Eastern Orthodox thinkers, or maybe introduce someone from a charismatic background to the just profound writings of a Catholic mystic. It has the potential to be a really powerful tool for discovery. But, and this is a huge but, with all that promise comes some pretty significant risk. So now we have to flip the coin over and look at the other side, the drawbacks and the very real dangers of, well, outsourcing our spiritual thinking to an algorithm.
The source material is pretty clear about this, and it lays out a few critical things to watch out for. First, there's the risk that it could just short-circuit meaningful spiritual growth. Second, and this is a big one, is the cultural bias that gets baked right into the AI's programming. And finally, there are 2 really human risks: our habit of treating the AI like a real person, and the temptation to just skip over the hard work of thinking for ourselves and talking with other people.
This quote here really hits the nail on the head. The main worry is this: real spiritual growth, a lot of the time, comes from the struggle, from wrestling with a difficult passage or just sitting with a tough question and really thinking it through. If an AI just serves up a neat, tidy answer on a silver platter, well, you might be missing the entire point of the journey.
So let's dig a little deeper into that second risk, cultural bias. This is so important. An AI is not neutral. It's trained on whatever data we feed it, which is mostly text from the internet. And, as the source points out, a whole lot of that material comes from a modern, Western, Christian perspective. So what's the result? The AI can end up presenting one specific cultural viewpoint as if it's the only one or the correct one, completely ignoring centuries of different theological ideas from all over the world.
And then there's this psychological trap we all fall into called anthropomorphizing. It's a fancy word, but it just means our natural tendency to treat non-human things like they're human. The danger here is huge. We might start seeing the AI not as what it is, a powerful but flawed tool, but as some kind of wise companion or spiritual guide. And yeah, it might feel like you're talking to a guide, but at the end of the day, it has no soul, no actual wisdom, and zero real understanding.
Okay, so where does all this leave us? It feels like a bit of a tightrope walk, doesn't it? And that brings us to our final section, finding wisdom in this crazy modern age. It's all about finding that balance between these shiny new tools and the timeless truths that have been around for centuries.
When you boil it all down, the argument really comes to this. Technology can be a great supplement, but it can never, ever be a substitute. The source is really firm on this. A large language model, no matter how smart it seems, is just no replacement for the messy, beautiful, real-life human stuff that faith is built on. We're talking about mentorship, actual conversations with people, and being part of a community.
And I just love this quote from the theologian Judith Wolfe that the source uses to wrap things up. She says that trying to understand theology, it's not like building a perfect tower where everything is neat and tidy and you have an answer for everything. It's more like building a boat. The boat is what you use for a journey, for discovery, out on this huge ocean of mystery. And for a journey like that, you need courage, you need other people with you, and you need trust. You need a lot more than just a clever algorithm.
And really, that's the big question we're left with, isn't it? As these tools get more and more powerful and just become a normal part of our lives, the real challenge is going to be figuring out how to use them as just that, tools, like a map or a compass for the boat we're building. We have to use them without ever letting them take the place of the captain or the crew or the adventure of the journey itself. So how do we make sure that technology serves wisdom and not the other way around?